And on the upper left here in the red for Apprentice Esports. His name is Ukko.
I believe this is going to be a bit of an uphill battle for him because he's actually never won a map in a tournament setting against his opponent. I believe he's 0-12. His opponent, it's Cham. Maybe today is the day, though, where he can get that, that score flipped upside down. I mean, it's been a long time since they last played against each other in a tournament setting, so obviously you gotta always take those stats with a grain of salt. Plus, on top of that, it is Zerg versus Zerg. This is a matchup that's extremely volatile. You can accidentally lose just by not paying attention for a quarter of a second, maybe even less than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's long been described as what, a blindfolded knife fight in a phone booth. Something like that. There you go. And you know what? In fairness, European ZVZ is not that much anymore. It's a lot of 3-base, Roche play, not quite as much crazy Ling Bane aggression, but for the most part, North Americas, they've kind of forgotten that. And generally, we see a lot of Ling Bane play, a lot of crazy aggression early on. And again, I didn't get a chance to see that Eric Egg series, Loco, but I imagine at least there was at least some of that.
There was also a great series between Elaser and Bly, where Bly ended up opening up with a proxy spine crawler. So he made a hatchery on the other side of the map, and then with a little bit of residual creep, he put down a spine crawler. We had some bangers of ZVZ yesterday, man. I know that a lot of people don't necessarily love the mirror matchups. I almost feel like that's something just left over maybe a bit from the olden days of StarCraft, because back in the day, I'm with you guys, maybe the mirror matchups weren't as exciting, but these days, all three of them are actually really solid, and ZVZ, I mean, this is a controversial opinion, but it's actually one of my favorite matchups in the game. I think it's very good.
Oh, I mean, I agree. There was a time like before Katowice last year, so 2 patches ago, when honestly TVT was pretty stale. But in general, yeah, no, it's been awesome. And I don't know, Loco, personally for me, early game is fun, but when we start to get to the late game, Hydra, Lurker, Viper, and it's just this, at that point, people love TVT because of the chess match and the Marine tank positioning battles. And for my eyes, Hydra, Lurker, Viper is just a better TVT. So you get a little bit something, you get chaos in the early game, crazy positioning in the late game. I don't need to sell you. I mean, you already said it's a good matchup.
The problem with late game ZVZ, though, is that you need to survive the early game and the mid game, and that's usually where the games tend to end. Because again, the margin for error in this matchup is absolutely tiny. So far, nothing all too crazy, though. We've got both players opening up with a third hatch, both of them going for link speed as well as the Baneling Nest on the back of this. We may see some deviations here in a moment, but first off, we're going to have to do the dance. We're going to have to do the Zergling Baneling dance, and well, if your dance moves aren't good, you can lose.
Yeah, you can dance where you want to, and we're going to have to see if Ukko, I guess he wants to dance on Cham's side of the map, and Cham a little bit slower in pumping those lings, which means he gets a couple drones out earlier on. If Ukko doesn't get the damage he wants, again, it's going to be a minor advantage. The way ZVZ works is that drone counts matter, but they can change very, very quickly. So for now, Ukko across the map here, Baneling, 6 Banelings morphing in, but at the very least, this feels like a dead queen. So look, if Ukko gets away with that one, that by itself is a beautiful, something. But where's Banelings were hiding? Where'd they come from?
Oh, that was a missed opportunity right there for Cham. I think he could have had all those Zerglings there for just about a split second. The queen is still around, though. I really like the location that he was warping in from, or morphing in those Banelings, rather. He wishes he could warp in Banelings. That would be kind of nuts.
Kind of gross.
Roachborn coming up right now for Ukko, though. Or for Ukko here. He decides to go for maybe a bit more of a solid follow-up here. Right? For the longest time, we used to see Evo Chambers first, but these days a lot of players go for that safety Roachborn instead.
I mean, have you heard the gospel of a laser? Just don't get an Evo Chamber.
Certainly have.
Max Roaches. It's the way to play ZVZ.
Well, I've also casted a lot of laser games where the Evo Chamber would have been nice. It would have been nice to have. Careful with those. Ooh, okay. With those Zerglings, I thought he's assuming there he was going to go for a run by.
And actually, a couple drones went down. I'm not actually sure where they went down, but anyway, 4 drones have died. So Ukko, he cut workers for that early bit of aggression, just lost 4 of his own. And again, a little minor economic. Oh, Banelings. Not going to find it just yet, but again, minor economic advantage for Cham right now. Roach is on the way for both sides. And this one, there we go.
Yeah. Especially on the underwater map, right? It looks extra dramatic. Now, eventually these units will be pushed back, but you already brought it up. Cham has been droning for a bit, and you already had the economical advantage. So now it's up to Ukko here to go for the counter-attack. Generally, when you get to the other side of the map, that's the moment where you start droning. Cham is the one who fires up a few more drones here. That screams confidence to me. He needs to be very careful that he does not get caught off guard against just a mass amount of army here for Ukko, because he's about to start knocking at the front door here.
That he is, and it's no longer just lings that can die very quickly to banelings, and even if you're down, you can kind of be okay. No. There are a couple of roaches on the map, not a ton, and this defensive setup for Cham seems like it's actually, it's a beautiful position. He's up army supply, he's got defender's advantage. Banelings aren't ready for Ukko just yet, so Ukko's trying to just lean into this, but Loco, this is not gonna work. I mean, if it does, well, Ukko gets the most insane connections I've ever seen, but it shouldn't. So Cham, he's now up 9 workers. He's in a beautiful spot.
Yeah. Then again, the larva mechanic allows you to produce a lot of stuff very quickly. Cham going for a bit of an attack over here. This is not super committed. He still doesn't have an Evo chamber doing any sort of researching. There it finally comes up. We also do have the lair now building, but he's investing into a better future, right? Like, he is just moving across the map a little bit, maybe trying to scare the opponent into making some roaches, because ultimately when you scare your opponent into making roaches, it means that they're not making drones, and well, the drone count here is absolutely critical. When you're both making the same units, the player with more economy will usually end up winning unless you take a really horrible fight.
Yeah, that much is true. And Cham, not only was his economy been that much better for quite a while, he's been up pretty significantly in army supply too. So this idea that, yeah, Ukko can go and build drones and be okay, sure. But when Cham's ahead on both, you're playing the balancing act of how many drones, how many army units do I make? It's just kind of bad for both. But Cham, he wanted to get a 4th base. I don't know if this didn't go down or if he canceled it or what, but no 4th base at the moment. And there we go. So
I think he was a bit scared. He saw his opponent marching across, so he got a little worried. Now instead he decides to fire up the roach speed together with the Spire. Another one of those moves that you would never see in the early days of StarCraft 2, or very, very rarely. These days it's a pretty common move. It's just a group of mutas and then a transition. Ooh, nice connection over there. Transition back towards that roach army, and when you have about a dozen or so, maybe 8 to 12 or so mutas out, it's really difficult for the roach player to ever move across the map.
And the key thing we're looking at here, as Cham has Aspire, by the way, it was scouted, the key thing we're looking at is how many mutas do you make? There is a big, you talked about 10, 12, 15 mutas, and that's a pretty heavy commitment, but it's not uncommon, especially when players are playing against Serral, to go in, they're going to get like 8 mutas. They're going to get 6 mutas. It's enough to sit on top of an army and kill Ravagers. It's enough to one-tap a drone here or there, knock down all the vision, as this base will fall. But if you do that...
Yeah, it's mech control, right? It's really nice to be able to deny all of that Overlord vision as well. Ukko, in the meantime, by the way, is morphing in a couple Dropper Lords himself. He's seen the Spire, like you brought up. Maybe he's thinking about bringing the Queens across the map. Now, that is a dangerous move, because if those Overlords get sniped, if those Dropper Lords get sniped, he's going to be in a world of trouble. There they are.
Yeah, there were 5 of them on the map, but he's not doing anything with it just yet. And
12 mutas.
Yeah. So at the very least here, if this is a commitment to anti-muta tech that Ukko we would expect him to go for, the 12 mutas, that's enough
we're going to
to
send
justify.
it through the center? So, sorry, but like this has been spotted from a mile away. There's roaches in those.
It's not even queen. Like, Ukko knows that there's a Spire. Put queens in that. You need anti-air. 12 mutas, it's significant. And Cham, he's going to find this in the middle of the map. He's got a roach run by on the 3rd. Loco, could Ukko be even more all in?
I don't think he needed to do this at all. No. He had the vision. I didn't mind the idea of queuing up a roach drop towards the natural off to the right side of the map and maybe queuing up a roach drop towards the main or something like that. But he decided to make a pretty even game. I mean, maybe a slight disadvantage for him, but he decided to basically put all of his eggs in one basket. I mean, here's the roaches showing up, but there's 12 units up in the air, and there's no units that can fire to those units up, and or to those units that are flying around right here for I mean, that was a completely unnecessary fight. He loses 100 supply right there for very little reward.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I haven't eaten since breakfast this morning, but I'm just looking at the soup, man. The soup is not lying here. It's 190 to 107. Better tech for Cham. He's got the mutas as well. This 4th base is never going to go up. And I mean, Ukko just kind of sat back, defended, been okay, push creep to the 4th base. Maybe
should just go kill him. he's playing this very conservatively, like that was just a timing attack right there from Ukko. There's Hydras available right now. Just, yeah, if you just attack here with the roaches, I think you just win, and he does it. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Like maybe if there was a transition towards lurkers or something like that on the horizon, but none of that is going on. Ukko, I think, with a bit of a misread here. Ultimately, even though he scouted the Spire, ultimately has to tap out a game.
I wonder if it was he kind of saw the Spire and thought it was not as far along as it was. So you're trying to hit that timing like as the mutas are gonna get built and all this money is spent, and then like there's 20 supplies sitting in larva that you can't use, and then maybe. But I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. It was just
that wasn't a very fast Spire though.
No.
Like that was a pretty late lair right there from Cham, and he just got there. He's like, I got some resources. I guess I'll go for the lair. Like you can kind of go for a Spire at any point in a Zerg versus Zerg now. There's not really like a set time for it anymore. Like you need to rush it out. Nah, it's pretty much always quite useful. So, interesting decision right there. Like I actually think bringing the Queens across would have also done very little, to be honest. Yeah, I don't see what they would have achieved. That was a move that I can't quite figure out the use behind, but
yeah,
it ended up not working out for him.
Yeah, it was weird. That being said, you know, maybe it's game one. You know, it's the elimination game, and that is something that we do have to consider. Ukko is very new to high-level competitive play. I think this is his second or third DreamHack/ESL season. So again, one of those situations when your back is against the wall and you are sitting at 1 and 2, you are in this awkward position where you have to win. And I think quite realistically, you know that you're the underdog here. Cham has beaten Ukko, fairly consistently, and Cham, I'm surprised he's 1 and 2. I would expect him to be 2 and 1, maybe in a better position to advance. All that being said, you feel so much pressure on you if your name is Ukko to make something happen, and then when it doesn't happen, well, it gets rough. But we're gonna have to see Ukko. Can he do something game 2? And well, to find it out, in the bottom left, in the blue, he's up a game for Starlight Twinkle. It's Cham.
And his opponent all the way in the opposite corner, going for a quick little spawning pool this time around. We're looking inside of the main base of Ukko. He was not playing a bad game though. I think he was ever so slightly behind, but it wasn't anything all too significant. It could be that it was a bit of a misread as well from him, that he thought, okay, I need to get something done because I'm in so much trouble. But yeah, that really wasn't an awful game for him at all. Then again, playing the macro game against somebody of Cham's caliber is very scary, so maybe he felt like it was do or die, and he needed to get it over with fast, and he decided to just go for an attack that, well, would at the very least finish the game. I wasn't the biggest fan of that particular attack of his, but maybe this particular build here can work out a little nicer, although Cham decided to go for an ever so slightly faster pool here than you normally would.
Yeah, that's gonna... I think in part this might just be safety, where... Well, actually, I know it was Ukko that went for the fast pool. Never mind.
Yeah, so Cham decided to go for, I think it was a hatch first into a pool and then eventually a gas geyser too. He took the gas and a pool right around the same time.
You had me, I mean, for some reason, anyway. So Ukko is going to get across the map very early. He's going to be able to put pressure on this natural. And the key thing, it's only, well, he's actually going to make 10 lings, is that you get lings on the hatch before it finishes, because then there's no armor, not +1 armor, so you're able to just get a little bit more damage. It's actually going to force the drones down a little bit here. So despite that slightly earlier pool coming out of Cham, this is reasonable economic damage done. The drones, even if you have to kill them to really justify this. But for right now, I mean, this is 10 drones, something like that.
It's good. I actually really like this here for Cham. As long as he doesn't lose the hatchery, this is A-okay for him. Now, there are links coming up, and he really needs to make sure that he does not lose it. Generally, you pull about 12 to 13 drones, so it's not the biggest commitment right here from him. Although that being said, I think he's going to be able to clean this up eventually, especially with the queen spawning. 4 drones have gone down, and ultimately that just sort of evens up the game a little bit. A lot of that lost mining. Ukko here did make a hatchery on the back of it too. Raynor told me, I think this was years ago at like a home story cup, that 13 is the magic number, and that's what I've been following with every single time. I don't even know if he was trolling me, but I've been following that advice religiously, as if it is indeed the gospel of truth. And well, I think Cham pulled a little bit less than he honestly should have.
And as a result, he lost a bunch of lings. He lost 4 drones. Again, the mining time, because you do have to pull, and also, I mean, significant damage on the hatch. 99 games out of 100 when the hatch takes damage like that, it doesn't really matter, right? We don't see it go down, but you know, especially if Ukko decides to do some Lingbane aggression on the side of it, there is that like 1 game out of 100 when you have the prolonged aggression long enough that the base dies anyways, just off Baneling Splash or something ridiculous like that. It's probably not going to matter.
So one thing that Cham scouts here is a full gasless follow-up here from Ukko, which is kind of neat. He did go for that link speed himself. He also lost an Overlord just now, which is actually quite unfortunate. There is no Baneling Nest or anything available for Cham, so he can hide Zerglings in the corner of the opponent's main base all he wants, but there's nothing coming up. What he does have, however, is link speed. And Metabolic Boost alone, just a good old link flood can definitely catch the opponent off guard. Ukko's trying to set up a wall off right now because he does see these links coming across. Okay, I actually like this a lot. Just completing it, not allowing the units to get in, but the Queens are still gonna need to put in a lot of work.
Yeah, I like the idea from those lings as well to maybe just dive in and delay the wall for just a second. But Ukko, yeah, he's not taking this lightly at all. It's a 3-layer wall. So yeah, Cham's gonna get through a layer. He's gonna get through 2 layers, but every time he burrows through on this, the problem is, by the way, he's not canceling them. They're dying, and that is a significant amount of money that's now getting lost for Cham, for Ukko. And the Lings now, they find their way on top of the Queens, but there is enough transfuse energy, so this should be okay. Even still, though, I mean, that was, I think, 3 or 4 dead Evos that really should have been canceled.
Look at that. Zerg players making walls.
Wow.
Generally, that's something for Terrans and for Protosses, but apparently Zergs can do it too, huh?
Yeah, apparently. I mean,
unseen. Never heard before of a Zerg player making a wall up like that. Nah, it is a good response right there, of course, from Ukko, who's actually finding himself in a surprisingly playable spot. Even though this is a very weird situation, I actually think he can, yeah, go. Oh, he's found a bit of an angle. He can just go for a Roach Warren and maybe use 1, 2, maybe even 3 of his Evo chambers to get some upgrades going as well.
So I'm hearing.
No, I don't think you need to make another Evo. Okay.
So Loco, I'm hearing a 1/1/1. Lingbane.
Yeah. A Zerg 1/1/1.
Yeah, exactly. A +1 attack, +1 attack, and +1 Carapace.
You know, I have played this type of game before as well, where I'm pretty happy with my wall micro here. And I have caught myself at some point in one of these types of games with an extra Evo chamber in the main base, because for some reason, I figured that's the only location where you can make upgrades in this matchup. So you have 12 Evo chambers built at the front, and you're like, you know what I need? I need an Evo chamber right now. I need something to start my upgrades with. Because you don't really view these Evos over here as a, well, at the very least, I don't. Ukko, at the very least, does start up an upgrade here, but sometimes you can go a little bit into autopilot. But yeah, he decided to go for the absolute safest Evo chamber to dedicate to the +1 missile research.
Yeah, you just got to make sure. Now, how do you feel about this, though? So it's +1 melee on the way from Cham. He's got a Roach Warren. Fine. Generally, when we see +1 melee, it's into Mutaplay, something like that. But again, not massive indications for that right now. We're only on, I guess we're on 2 gas. But if you're on mutas, first of all, you need a layer. And second of all, you want to be 4 gas, 6 gas, something like that. Really have that heavy gas count.
Yeah, I guess Ravager Ling is the plan here for Cham, because otherwise the +1 melee doesn't really make a lot of sense. He does see that his opponent is researching something, so that's always a little bit scary. You know, also notices that the opponent is going to be at lair tech, because otherwise you wouldn't have this Overseer flying around, so the +1 melee is a lot more committed, right? Like, you kind of need to get something done fast, because that upgrade, it falls off in the next couple minutes.
It really does. Once you get, certainly once Carapace goes down, that matters not at all. And the other thing is, like, you can get Carapace, right? And that is, it's great because it applies to your Lings, your Banelings, your Roaches, your Queens, whatever you have. And that can enable these kind of middle tech setups. Ooh, nice around there with the +1 as well. So I guess this was the idea from Cham. You get +1 melee to snipe a Queen, but here comes the army as well. It's not all that big, though. Not yet. We're kind of missing a lot of stuff. And actually, the Ravagers are going to get stuck on those chokes just a little bit. But now, Lings, there's the surround you were looking for, Loco. Biles, are they going to land? No, not yet, in fact, but still, this surround.
Ooh, okay, once again, I mean, this fight here for Cham should not be going the way it has been going, but Ukko getting caught right there with his pens down. +1 missile is finished right here as well for the player in red, so that makes those Roaches so much better against these Ling-heavy armies. But Cham getting the wrap around and then following it up with Biles, getting the full energy Queen right there before the fight really began as well, which is absolutely massive. Ukko has had the economical advantage here for a long time. They're essentially making the same units. And somehow, some way, Cham is getting it done, it seems. At least in that first part of the fight.
Yeah, we're going to have to see. I love these Biles, by the way, just canceling the eggs as they go down because, of course, spell damage punches through. Now, it is, you talked about it, but it is important to bring up again. The army of Ukko, give him enough time, his army is going to be better. He's got he's got +1 range, excuse me. His roaches will shred the lings. It really is a big deal here as long as Cham is able to keep this pressure going. But he does have more production. He does have that third base. Queens will fall down, less production there as well. And Cham is just, I love the patience, just slowly wedging his way in, looking for those surrounds. Now gets on top of the roaches on the left side. Biles are still not going to land, though. But now the lings on up to ramp, trying to find what they can. Ukko microing backwards, and this is just not working out for Cham right now. Biles at the end will land. But look at the supply, 55 to 39. The lings are just, they're not getting enough.
Yeah, so with +1 missile, the Zerglings that are not upgraded with their armor at all, they get 2-shot rather than the conventional 3-shot, which is absolutely massive. So suddenly these roaches in red, they're killing the Zerglings with 2 attacks rather than 3. It adds up very quickly, so Ukko decides to fire up the +2 missile upgrade as well, and I think he should commit to the attack. I mean, he's got roach speed done as well. Cham is not going to be able to escape very easily, although the Ravagers are still at least a bit of a vulnerability against the Lynx.
Yeah, I think you're right. Ukko attacks right now. I think he probably wins the game. But again, you're down 1-2. It's scary to attack. It's scary to potentially lose that game as well. Miles won't get the Overlord. Speed Zone is very nice right there.
Yeah. Slowest unit in the game still benefits from the Speed Zone, baby. Trying to set up a concave over here, but yeah, those Zerglings, they just dive on top of those roaches and Ravagers. Ukko may have the supply lead, he may have had the bigger economy for a long time, but he still needs to respect these units in blue.
That he does, and I mean, again, there's the whole, we talked about the eco lead, the supply lead, the tech lead. One thing he has not had this entire game is the production lead. He lost a queen, so he wasn't able to inject out of that hatchery for a while. His third base still not done. Cham, he's had 3 hatch triple inject production for the last 5 minutes or so. So, yeah, his economy's not great.
The most important lead he still has is the Evo Chamber lead, he still has 4 Evos. I mean, it's not quite the greatest wall anymore like we saw earlier, but that's still 4 Evo Chambers. That's 3 more than the opponent.
You know, I got to question this as well, right? He goes and he gets Carapace on a hatchery or an Evo with 471 HP when there's a Evo with 515 HP. Clearly, the Evo micro is not where it needs to be right now.
We need to up the Evolution Chamber micro.
Yes, absolutely.
Make an extra queen, transfuse the low HP one back up too. I would like to see that.
I'm down. Hey, look, if you're down, I'm down, Loco.
It's a Hydra den coming up right now for Ukko here as well. So he's just gonna go good old Roach Hydra with +2/+1. And I still like that spot for him quite a bit. But Cham, I kind of feel like he was dead in the water earlier. I mean, it's just so desperate when you're both making the same army, and Cham has actually clawed his way back into this game really nicely. Now he finds himself with a 4-worker lead. I mean, that's really nothing amazing, but the confidence with which he's moving around his army, I think it's scaring Ukko a little bit. Like, he is backing off in fights where he probably could have committed a little bit more, and he's playing just a little bit too passively when he could have been more aggressive. So, yeah, Cham, sometimes you gotta look strong where you're not really that strong overall, right? You gotta appear to be stronger than you actually are just to trick the opponent a bit. And in these very chaotic and wild games, Cham apparently is still inching into a position where he's actually fine.
Yeah, Loco, Sun Tzu said, where you're weak, appear strong, and where you're strong, appear weak. So Cham's really taken that to heart. And I mean, Ukko's gonna really struggle, even with the upgrade lead, to punch through that choke. And when you talk about this setup, getting that Hydra den like that, and if Ukko had committed to Hydras, he hasn't just yet. When your opponent is on Mass Roach Ravager and you go like Roach Ravager Hydra, all things being equal, the Roach player can tend to win because you'll have more Roaches and you can dive on top when the Hydras are only good so long as they're not getting actively attacked and killed. So I do like Ukko's decision there to stay on the Roaches. He tries to run around the speed zone, establish this concave, but it's just better for Cham right now. Somehow he's up 10 army supply, and that doesn't feel like this should be a thing.
So Ukko has got the upgrade lead, right? He's got essentially 2 upgrades here over his opponent in these fights. That should be amazing for him. Once again, here come the Dropper Lords. Not again, Ukko. I don't hate it, don't get me wrong, but the Dropper Lords that was the beginning of the end in the previous game.
I think it was the end of the previous game as well, but I like this move from Cham as well. You know, he's just buying time. He understands that, well, Ukko's up in upgrades, whatever. Might as well run some roaches across, find some value. Now,
Well,
this is not great. That's a lot of roaches to lose.
That is a lot of roaches to lose for sure. He's gonna go for tunneling claws, and I thought that that's what these units were ultimately waiting for. What's inside of this? It's 4 roaches. Okay.
Hey,
well, apparently we're bringing them across.
What do you need for tunneling claws to work?
Burrow. Does he not have burrow?
We don't have burrow.
Well, you get spikes. Look, he got spikes on his roaches now. That's for intimidation.
It's going to force spores. That's, 125 minerals when you include the drone cost. It's forcing overseers. It's economic attack. There's burrow on the way.
He's gelled the hair up on his roaches. Okay, that's pretty cool too. So that's 4. It's 4 roaches inside of 3 overlords. Pretty much every single one of them could have had a private plane, but apparently not. 2 are just for show. Ultimately, Cham's fighting, though, is really quite nice. But Ukko has had a pretty substantial lead as far as the army goes for a long while, but I don't think he quite realizes it.
No, this is wild here. We've had this Dropper Lord on the mate. It's gotten a queen. Actually, it might have even killed 2 queens. Yeah, only 2 queens on the map, but Ukko only has 1 queen. So production here, very lacking. Upgrades are going to get a lot closer very quickly. +2 attack is done right now. Burrow is going to be eventually done, not that it's relevant for this fight. Cham is fighting his way back into this game, and the Hydras, I mean, there's one of them. They're not really, it's not going to do all that much. And again, we've seen this attacking into this position as the Red Zerg is really hard. Cham, I mean, he's handling this tremendously well.
Yeah, it's a difficult map to engage on, right? With these very large roach armies. There's another run by, and he's actually going to be able to finish up that natural. The evolution chamber wall does still hold. I mean, it's a bit of a messed up wall, I suppose. Most of it has been broken down, but the hatchery now does fall, and that's a painful one. Cham has been doing an amazing job in this game, though. I'm actually thoroughly impressed, because winning from the position that he was in is not an easy feat. He's really been trying his best to just use the map to his advantage, and all of these tight choke points, it makes it so difficult to fight in, although he may very well have found an angle himself now.
Yeah, wedges his way in there. I mean, Biles are still scary and they get a Ravager or 2, but at this point, Cham just has to not lose. He doesn't have to win the fight. He just has to not lose the fight. He should be okay. The economy, well, that being said, he's got roaches in his natural economy.
Yeah.
Starting to get shattered here. And upgrades, this is where it should start to matter, but this is what we talked about. This Hydra army can be so fragile. The Biles are nice as well.
There's no roaches. There's like no roaches here, so you gotta be so careful here as Ukko. It looks like he does manage to hold. And I was kind of making fun of the 4 roach triple dropper lord situation, but they have killed a tremendous amount of workers on the other side of the map. Cham's playing a little mini game of which overlord are the roaches in right now. You never know which one is gonna be dropping down the units, but those couple of troops have done a tremendous amount of work on the other side.
By the way, at this point, it's not which overlord has the roaches, it's which overlord has the singular roach. There's only they're all dead now. And at this point, Ukko's got an upgrade lead. He's got a more expensive army with these Hydras as well. It's a lot of damage here. Is Ukko gonna make this happen?
Oh, there's no roaches in front here to tank. Ukko's got to be so careful. He's losing a lot of the Ravagers that really should be in the back. Hydra's also a little too far forward. I think he got a little bit too fancy right now with his unit composition. This fight, though, is still very close. But Cham, I feel like he has been holding on by the skin of his teeth for the entirety of this match. But I think he's ultimately pulling out ahead.
At this point, yeah, I mean, look at the economies. Ukko's mining 700 minerals a minute, 300 gas. He cannot reproduce this army anymore. So that fight that Cham took on his high ground like that, that is how he has ended this game. That is how he has made one of the better ZVG comebacks I've seen in a while.